Good morning, everyone. I'm Kaye here on my homestead in Tennessee, Late Bloomer Garden 2.0, which is about 20 times bigger than Late Bloomer Garden 1.0, which was in California. Today, I wanted to share with you some thoughts for our midweek update. So grab a mug and let's get started. Okay, I wanted to first give a huge shout out to Danny at Deep South Homestead. Now, you may watch his channel and you've already seen this video, so I'm going to be just reinforcing some of his ideas, as well as giving you my own personal account of some of the points that he made. And I want to ask you, first of all, I want to ask you the simple question: could you get out of the system? Could you get off of your Social Security, for example? Could you get off of, could you pay off your mortgage? Everything that binds you to the system, could you cut ties with that and be free of that? And that's one of the things he was really going through in the video, and I will put the link below the video in the first pinned comment, because I think it's really important, even if you're not a Bible-centered person as he is. I think it's really important that you hear his message today. And it's not completely unlike messages he's given before, but really, if you analyze especially the earthquake activity around the world, you know that things are closing in. And you need to be aware of it, in my opinion. So, good morning, B. So, I wanted to tell you a little story. He was saying that he had been all over the world without a cell phone, and that he hasn't... I have a friendly bee. He hasn't had a cell phone in about 4 years. Cell phones today are all smartphones. Very few people walk around with a flip phone. Now, when I first came here, the very first project I did was the refacing of the, and I wanted to do it before, you know, the house got filled up with stuff, because it's very dusty to reface your fireplace, to have mason work in your living room. So everything was, you know, plasticed off and everything. Good morning. And he did not have a smartphone. He had a flip phone. And that's the last person that I know of that, and that was 21, January of 21. I've often thought, can I live without this smartphone? And I would love to. I don't see how it's possible without, you know, if I have a channel and I have to share on social media, I don't see how that's possible. Now, his wife does have a cell phone, but he doesn't like to talk on the phone, and he talks about that. And I have considered, and maybe some of you do not have a smartphone, and that is smart. However, you know, he talks about, in terms of the biblical point of view, is that, you know, our surveillance and control is closing in, and you can feel it. Every time I hear the word Palantir, I think, oh, okay. If you don't know what company that is, look it up. It's it intends to surveil the world, if it doesn't already. He made the point that he had been around the world without a phone, and I went to, the year before I got married, I decided to do my Europe trip. You could buy a Eurail pass for, I think it was $350 at the time. This was a long time ago, and very long time, decades ago. You could buy, I did buy a Eurail pass for $350, and with that pass you could take any bus or any train in Europe. And of course, this was before Brexit, so this included the UK and all of its parts, and as well as, you know, France, Germany, Italy, and I went to Belgium. I went to all those places by myself, and I was young, and I was I looked a lot better than I do now, okay? There was a book that was famous because so many people wanted to do this, you know, as part of their sort of coming of age, so to speak. A lot of people do it before they go to college, but that didn't happen for me because my father was, you know what he gave me for graduation from high school present? My own set of luggage. That was graduation high school, yeah, to go to college. So I had this beautiful green, probably Samsonite or something. I don't remember which one it was, but very typical green luggage. Anyway, I packed a backpack and I went to Europe, and it was of course summer, so you didn't have to have anything heavy, a rain garment or something, because it was hot. So sandals and tennis shoes and jean skirt and, you know, a few tops and a few bottoms and pants, and you're done. You know, it's easy. There was a book, very famous book, Going to Europe on $10 a Day, something like that. And that was my goal, because I didn't have much money to do this. But I was determined to do it. I had graduated college with an art degree, and I needed a job, so I moved to Washington, D.C. From Tennessee, and stayed with my older cousin who was in the Navy, and he was stationed in Arlington, and he and his wife. And so I stayed with them briefly until I got an apartment, and then I thought, well, I've got to get a job. Oh, you know, what's an artist going to do in Washington? Well, that could take some long-range planning to try to pay your bills, but I needed a job right away. I didn't have any money. So I went to work in the office of a senator on Capitol Hill. And that lasted a little over a year until I couldn't take it anymore. And I thought, this is a great time for me to go to Europe. So that summer I went. I had met a woman in D.C. She was from D.C. and I don't even remember now how I made her association, but I did. And she had fallen in love with a French police officer and moved to France and became a French citizen. So when I went over there, I was able to stay with them, and when I was in France, and I stayed with a friend of my cousin when I was in UK, and they put me up in a worker's room above a pub with a cold water shared bath, and you know, I got by. I got by, you know. Most of the time I was paying, but some of the time I did get to stay for free here and there. So I spent very little money. You know how a man will say, like my son, for example, I mean, perfect example. He went to work on a ranch. He graduated in regenerative agriculture, and he went to work on a ranch where there was a guy that had grown up roping calves and roping steers, and he worked as the animal manager at a ranch up in Pescadero, which is in Northern California, and working with this guy Mike, learning all the ropes, literally. Well, he didn't learn how to rope steers. That's something Mike was very good at, but grew up doing, you know. But he said, you know, working with him for a year made a man out of me. And you'll often hear that from men, not so much women. I don't really hear women saying that so much, but I guess in a way my experience that summer made a woman out of me, because it made me be able to watch out for myself, protect myself, and be frugal, and just, I mean, there was no plan. Each day it was just, okay. However, 6 weeks of that 3 months, this was a 3-month Eurail pass, and I was determined to use every week of that pass, and did. And I flew to UK, and I was there for a few days, and then I went to France, and then I had already enrolled in Parsons School of Design. It has I don't know if it's still going on, but it had a wonderful collection of classes, group of classes. You could take French, you could take, of course, any kind of art. And that's where I met my friend Mary, who is now retired and is a wonderful painter, and she posts all of her paintings on her Facebook page, and I'm just stunned that she's still growing as an artist, whereas I plateaued. I became a gardener, but she's a wonderful gardener too, and you can see the art in her garden. So anyway, this trip was pivotal. It changed my life, you know, and I stayed in some sketchy places, but you know, I would never do that today. But there was no phone. I mean, we think we can't. We freak out if we go to town to pick up a couple of groceries and we don't have our phone. Where is it? Where is it? Oh my gosh, yesterday, we're working in the garden. I didn't feel it in my pocket. I got a big pocket. I didn't feel it in my pocket. And I said, Randy, we've got a problem. He said, what? I said, I don't know where my phone is. He said, well, do you have it on, you know, unmuted? And I said, probably not, because it's early and I often forget to do that. And so when I go to sleep at night, I turn off that button, you know, so that nothing can disturb me, because I don't have young children, okay? If I had a child still under my care, it would be on. That's how married to that phone I am, you know. So anyway, it was in my pocket. It was no problem. But this particular trip, I think, was instrumental in my growing, you know, as an adult. And so I hesitate to think, I mean, I don't think anyone would undertake a trip like that today without a cell phone, because we've become so dependent on it. And this is one of the big points Danny was making, and I highly encourage you, because he can put everything, what's going on now, he can put it all into a biblical context and timeline, and is very versed in scripture. So I highly encourage that. One of the other points he was making, and I thought, you're right. Yesterday, it's 90 degrees and I'm seeing leaves dropping. And I thought, well, it's just because it's so dry. But his point is that the season is speeding up. Things that are happening right now should not be happening till the end of September. You know, in his part of the world, down in Louisiana, Mississippi, well, he's down there, very, very south. And so I've been noticing that there's a big, you know, tree over here. I don't know which one it is, and it's all yellow. And I'm thinking, it shouldn't be yellow in August. I think he's right. He said it feels like we're going into fall, even though it's still 90 degrees during the day. It's crazy. And this drought, this is my 5th season. Good morning, come over. Come over, I dare you to fly right in front of the camera. Oh, that was a hummingbird. And it was gonna go for this and thought it was too close to me, I'm sure. It's so dry. In the 5 years that I've been here, I've never seen it quite this bad. And so I did break down and water the corn over there on the side, but it's almost ready. There's a swallowtail, yellow swallowtail. And So I'll be harvesting that corn very soon, and we're going to go ahead and dig up a hill. I mean, usually I don't harvest sweet potatoes till the end of September, but he was pointing out that everything has sped up with the sweet potatoes down there. So Randy and I are going to check tomorrow and just dig up a hill and see where we're at. Which brings me to the next point is Danny was pointing out something about pine straw. Now, what he's referring to is pine needles. And and I have been racking my brain because I had my regular potato harvest cured in the garage, which is around, in the daytime, it's around 70, 75 in there. And so they're cured and they need to be into cool storage now to be able to save them. They're not going to last in there. I don't have a root cellar, although it's been on my mind, and so I'm going to put them under the house. It is cooler down there, and I've been racking my brain. Okay, it's been a while since I've seen any evidence of mice under the house, but because we have this airtight door on there it's like Fort Knox, and but there's always a chance a mouse could get in somehow. So I am going to pack them into those, those plastic bins with the lid that locks. And I've been racking my brain what to layer them in there with. Well, I looked at Walmart for straw, and I found a block of straw, which would have been perfect amount. I don't want some big bale of straw. And I don't know if it's been sprayed. If I go to the co-op and I buy a bale of straw, has it been sprayed? Or Lowe's has it too. I bought one bale of straw for my strawberries, and which didn't really do much good. Still got copious weeds, and but you can't be guaranteed it hasn't been sprayed with some chemicals in the growth of it. So this block in Lowe's the other day, I said, well, you think it's been sprayed? And she said, I don't know, maybe it's plastic. And I'm going, oh, okay. Because it's just for decor, fall decor. So I went and looked at animal bedding, because that's pine shavings. And I used to use those in my California garden for mulch. I mean, they're shavings. They're pretty soft, but I don't know. I just didn't think that was the right thing either. And when he mentioned this morning that the pine straw or pine needles are dropping off the pine trees, I'm going, oh yeah. I have a huge tree down here, and each year I go, can I get one more year before I have to spend $2,000 to drop this tree? It's going to change the whole feeling of my lower garden down there, not to have it. I love having it there. But only the top looks green in the summer. And so, but now it's all yellow, and I'm sure it's going to be dropping, and that's something that I could use to pack the potatoes. I don't have that many. I maybe have 2 bins of potatoes, but keep some in the kitchen to use and then put the rest down there. And then maybe I'll have potatoes in December, January, February. The same thing I will do with the sweet potatoes. So I just wanted to give you a little update on the deck project. Well, I fell in love with Decomposed Granite on that trip to Europe back all those decades ago, because all the public parks, they have these big wide entrances and walkways and paths through these city parks. And there was a park across the street from where we stayed in the Parsons School, and it was Parc de Luxembourg. And I used to be able to say that better because I did take French. Parc de Luxembourg. And everything is decomposed granite on the walkways, which is lovely to walk on. And you know how when you walk on asphalt, you can't walk on gravel. It's not comfortable. And so I am trying to figure out what to put on the back side of my house so that I can lock out the weeds and be able to walk through my memorial garden and the little courtyard beside it, which I've planned, which used to be just weeds. and what to do there, you know, because flagstone, I mean, yes, I can go on Facebook Marketplace and find a discounted pallet of flagstone, but getting it here, and I mean, I can't get 3,300 pounds of stone here myself. So anyway, and ground cover. You plant ground cover, and if it takes off, and that's what was over there before, a lot of ground cover, and it was this tall. And any kind of snake could be right there, and I don't want to encourage anything around the house that could disguise or hide a snake. That just blew my mind last night. It was going to be like close to $5,000 for 10 by 15 feet of decomposed granite. That does not include the labor or the, I'm thinking, or the base layer of gravel. Because I thought maybe, you know, Randy and I could just do it, you know, and that's probably why no one does it here. You know, we called the concrete company. They didn't even know what it was. And I used it in my California garden. Eric and I put it in, but it was a smaller space that we were trying to cover. I just went down and bought the bags. I bought the bags of gravel and the bags of DG, and we put it in. So I don't know what the grading is going to cost, and I have to have grading done over here because of the water. With this video today, I just thought his title of this video is "Get Out," meaning get out of the system while you can. I'm not sure what good that will do. You know, because if you're not in the system, well, if you get out of the system, you would have to pay off your mortgage. That's true. You'd have to get out of debt to be out of the system. But he was saying, you know, for decades he's been trying to get out. It's very good food for thought, and I highly encourage you to watch that video. I got all the weeds out of the memorial garden yesterday. Each plant, the rose plant, had weeds coming out from the plant this far. And the reason is because I put compost and mulch around each plant, so all the weeds started there, and they were just growing out. The grass was growing out to here, and 10 other kinds of weeds. Oh, Oriental lady's thumb. Oh my goodness. That can really develop into a bush. So, yeah, got that done in the beating sun, got it watered and composted, so it looks a lot better, but the point is, the weeds will come back. Not so much now because it's late in the season, but I've got to have a plan, you know? I mean, yes, I could just put down weed cloth and mulch and get a season or two maybe, but, or maybe not. Crabgrass is just impossible here. I don't know what to do. If you have any suggestions, low-cost suggestions, please let me know. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for being with me during this time. I know there's 1,000 ways you could be spending your time, and I appreciate it that you spent it with me. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.